Namaste. Welcome to today's service, which is dedicated to the life of Lahiri Mahasaya. And we celebrate the coming and the going on one day this year. His Mahasamadhi was the 26th, and his birth date is the 30th. And because Sunday is a convenient day to be all together, so we're commemorating both of these special occasions. The coming of an avatar into the world is one of the great blessings. Most people think of the great events in the history of the world as being like whatever it was that took out the dinosaurs. You know, some big cataclysmic event, Pompeii, and the volcano goes up and everybody's gone, and that's a big event. That's nothing compared to the coming into this world of a being that is 100% representative of the divine. And that this being's sole purpose, no personal karma, no personal need to be here, sole purpose is to uplift mankind, to reawaken, to energize, to bless all those who are interested in remembering their divine roots, their divine source, their divine reality. And Lahiri Mahasaya was such a one. And one of the fascinating things about his particular incarnation is that, first of all, that he didn't even remember for 33 years that he was a free soul. That he, as a part of the message of his lifetime, he took on that limited consciousness and lived as a man. And got married, had a family, had a job in a government office. He was just he was born as a Brahmin. He was just a regular guy, though. I mean, clearly he was a person of high character, but he had taken on the you might say the cloud, the limited experience that most people have in terms of the we're here and God or whatever is out there is out there, and that you can't fully cognize that reality. And then at the age of 33, he is through a series of coincidences, those things that people look at in their lives and go, oh, I wonder how that happened, why that happened. And he ends up in Ranikhet, and he meets his guru and is touched by his guru, and he remembers. He remembers that this Babaji is his guru, and that he is, you know, his spirit. It's interesting that in the chapter on Lahiri Mahasaya in the autobiography of a yogi, Yoganandaji starts with the relationship between Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. He establishes that the guru-disciple relationship, once created, is not broken even by the transitions from this world to the astral world. And through succeeding incarnations, when you have created the bond with your Satguru, your true guru, not just a lesser teacher, but a guru that is truly one with the divine, then that channel of the divine follows you through incarnations until you're free. And this is one of the great blessings and promises of the divine, the ultimate relationship, an expression of God's love, that God will send a personal guru, a savior, to each and every one of us and guide us to freedom, to the remembrance of our divine reality. I'd like to read. There's so many aspects to the lives of the avatars that you can't really cover them in just a few minutes. So I'm just going to try to figure out where this went. Okay. I love technology, but sometimes it takes a while to get it to go where you want to go. So I'm reading from the autobiography of a yogi. These are a master expressing Lahiri Mahasaya's thoughts. Always remember that you belong to no one, and no one belongs to you. Reflect that someday you will suddenly have to leave everything in this world. So make the acquaintanceship of God now. Prepare yourself for the coming astral journey of death by daily riding in the balloon of God perception. Through delusion, you are perceiving yourself as a bundle of flesh and bones, which at best is a nest of troubles. Meditate unceasingly, that you may quickly behold yourself as the infinite essence, free from every form of misery. Cease being a prisoner of the body. Using the secret key of Kriya, learn to escape into spirit. This is one of the essential messages of all of the masters, in that the emphasis in the true spiritual life is not in the memorization of teachings, but is in the actual experience of communion with the divine. And this is one of the great gifts of the yoga teachings, and in the specific teaching of self-realization, which is the technique of Kriya Yoga, is this very specific process for communing with spirit. This is not something that comes by accident, something that if you believe in it hard enough, then you can pop through to the other side. It's something that you have to grow. Well, as Patanjali said, we have to remember it. Smriti, divine memory. We have to remember that which we already are. But we, as he says here, we think that we are a bundle of flesh and bones. We have to free ourselves from that hypnosis of thinking that we are flesh and bone. How do we do that? We turn our consciousness within. And through the practice of Kriya Yoga, we release ourselves from this hypnosis of separateness, of confinement in the body and the personality. And we begin to remember and experience ourselves as spirit. This is a very, I want to say concrete, but it's not concrete like a building. It's concrete like something that is very real. Something that in fact, it's more concrete than concrete because it's more real. It's more connected to the central truth of life. And he says, learn to escape to spirit. This is something that we can learn. This is a very specific process. It's not like if I'm a good boy, then God will favor me And then only through the whim of God, I will get the blessing of a realizing spirit. No, you have to learn it. You have to practice it. You have to show your interest. You have to say, Lord, I am interested, and I'll prove it by investing my time in meditation and well, he says unceasing. He says you have to meditate unceasingly. Now, how many can meditate for 20 minutes? How many of us can meditate for 20 hours? How are we going to go from any amount of meditation to unceasing meditation? And this is something that we need to realize, is that the practice of meditation and what we would describe as the lifestyle of the Kriya Yogi is powered by the practice of Kriya and meditation, but then we need to learn to take the results of that meditation, the inner connection of that meditation, and we need to bring it unceasingly into every part of life. And this is one of the reasons that Lahiri Mahasaya took on the incarnation of a householder and showed that spirituality does not need to be limited by any specific outward lifestyle responsibility. That as a householder, let's face it, most of the people on the planet end up being what we describe as householders, people who have to earn a living and they raise a family and they have family relationships. And it's a common belief that the householder can't know God. And that the householder, in order to fulfill their responsibilities, cannot meditate unceasingly. The great Guru taught his disciples to avoid theoretical discussion of the scriptures. He only is wise who devotes himself to realizing, not reading only, the ancient revelations. Solve all your problems through meditation. Exchange unprofitable religious speculations for actual God contact. Clear your mind of dogmatic theological debris. Let in the fresh healing waters of direct perception. Attune yourself to the active inner guidance. The divine voice has the answer to every dilemma of life. Through man's ingenuity for getting himself into trouble, though man's ingenuity for getting himself into trouble appears to be endless, the infinite succor is no less resourceful. That means that however creatively you can get lost in the world, God can help you to get out of it. But the only way that God can fully help you is through your active entering into this process of inner communion, which is driven by the practice of meditation. And the practice of meditation, remember, we define meditation as the single-pointed focusing of the mind on a specific meditation technique or attribute of spirit. So we use the techniques to learn how to become aware of and commune with the attributes of spirit: joy, bliss, peace, also wisdom. Wisdom includes the information that we need to solve every practical outward challenge as well. And through our communion with infinite potential and the development of single-pointed concentration, we can apply universal potential to every situation that we have. And thus we see that you can, Lahiri Mahasaya had probably what you would describe as a middle class income. Yeah, so he wasn't wealthy, and he had children. His wife complained that you know, she wanted more money in the household. That's normal. That shows that in spite of what we describe as the things that keep us from seeking God, the things that keep us from meditating on God, that you, in fact, those things don't need to keep you. And as Rajarsi Janakananda said, he was Yoganandaji's foremost disciple in America. When people said, "How can you afford to take the time to meditate?" He was a very busy businessman and very successful. And he said, "I can't afford to take the time not to meditate. Because when you have learned to commune with God, your ability to understand things is so much clearer, so much more energy, so much time is not wasted in trying to figure out what to do." When he was in meetings, he would appear to be not paying any attention because mainly he said that he was moving the energy up and down his spine inside and basically being polite and waiting for everyone else to have a turn to give their opinions, which were based on limited understanding and personal interests. And then when it came to be his turn to speak, he would very clearly communicate the essential needs of the moment. And because he did it with such clarity and yet openness and not bossiness, but inclusiveness, people realized that in fact he was right and that that's what they should do. So a great power does not need to be wielded with a stick, but it can be wielded with God's love, God's unity. And this is something that Lahiri Mahasaya, in a very humble way, after he was reawakened by his Guru Babaji, he continued to have his job for 25 years. So his remembrance of his oneness with Infinite Spirit did not keep him from fulfilling his daily responsibilities. Lahiri Mahasaya carefully graded the Kriya Yoga practice into 4 progressive initiations. He bestowed the 3 higher techniques only after the devotee had manifested definite spiritual progress. One day, a certain Chela, convinced that his worth was not being duly evaluated, gave voice to his discontent. "Master," he said, "surely I'm now ready for the second Kriya." And at this moment, interestingly enough, the door of the ashram opened to admit a humble disciple, Brindavada. And he was a Benares postman. And the postman folded his hands in supplication. "Gurudeva," he says, Lahiri Mahasaya said to he says, "Brinda, come sit by me." And then the Guru smiled at him affectionately. He said, "Tell me, are you ready for the second Kriya technique?" And the postman folded his hands. He said, "Sir, Gurudeva, please, no more initiations." Oops. He said, "No more initiations, please. How can I assimilate any higher teachings? I have come today to ask for your blessings because the first divine Kriya practice has filled me with such intoxication that I cannot deliver my letters. And then Lahiri Mahasaya says, already Brenda swims in the sea of spirit. And then that disciple who was complaining says, Master, I see, I have been a poor workman finding fault with my tools. And this is so common, is that we blame God, we blame our opportunities for holding us back, when in fact we haven't fully taken advantage of the opportunities that God has given in our lives. Interestingly, the postman, who was an uneducated man, later developed insight through Kriya to the extent that scholars would occasionally seek him out for scriptural points and interpretations. And he became known among the pundits for being a wise man. Not a scholar, but a wise man. That wisdom comes from direct communion. What could we, how many years do people spend in their educational career in school to get ahead in life? If we would just take 1/100th of that energy and give it to the practice of Kriya Yoga, we'd be much wiser. And the worldly man thinks that that education is a good investment, and it is. But it's an incomplete investment, because without investing the time to know God directly within ourselves, we're cutting ourselves off of our greatest opportunity for happiness inwardly and success inwardly and outwardly. Lahiri Mahasaya goes on to say, our eagerness for worldly activity kills in us the sense of spiritual awe. We cannot comprehend the great life behind all names and forms. Just because science brings home to us how we can use the power of nature, this familiarity I lost my place here. This familiarity has bred a contempt for her ultimate secrets. Our relation with nature is one of practical business. We tease her, so to speak, to know how she can be used to serve our purposes. We make use of her energies whose source yet remains unknown. In science, our relation with nature is one that exists between a man and his servant. Or in a philosophical sense, she is like a captive in the witness box. We cross-examine her, challenge her, and minutely weigh her evidence in human scales, which cannot measure her hidden values. On the other hand, when the self is in the communion with a higher power, nature automatically obeys without stress or strain the will of man. This effortless command over nature is called miraculous by the uncomprehending materialist. There's an interesting turn of events. Some of you may have heard of a man named Stephen Hawking from America, who is extremely well known, and basically wrote a book explaining the creation, how it was made, and has come to the conclusion, and recently stated it publicly, that science explains, gives sufficient explanation for how the creation, what the creation is and how it came about. such as that, in his opinion, religion is now an antiquated thought. God doesn't exist, and we don't need the explanations of religion in order to make us feel good about ourselves and the world. Well, first of all, he's made the blunder of the overly intellectual, which is to think that religion explains truth. The religions of the world do not explain truth. They, in various ways, discuss the subject. But you cannot explain truth except by communing with it, by experiencing it. You cannot take God, the concept of God, and intellectualize about it. This is what Lahiri Mahasaya was saying earlier, is you can't just read about it and think that you know about it. And if you think about the people who promote religion around the world, their history is not real good for bringing about greater harmony. There's a lot of misunderstanding. But if you go to the lives of the saints, and this is one of the great messages of the life of Lahiri Mahasaya, is that it's insufficient to think about God. You must commune with God, and here's how you do it. And that this communion is available to everyone. That it transcends the caste system. It transcends religious belief. So he initiated disciples from all stratas of society and from all religious backgrounds. And he said, continue your practices of whatever religion that you feel, that you've grown up with, that you feel connected to. If you feel to do this, fine. But commune with God. Don't leave it as following a set of beliefs. And this whole idea that people think that they can intellectually explain and understand universal realities is the ignorance of the hypnosis of delusion. And if you look into the life of Stephen Hawking, I don't think you're going to find the bliss of Lahiri Mahasaya. I don't think you're going to find the power of Lahiri Mahasaya. I don't think you're going to find the wisdom of Lahiri Mahasaya. Because he was in tune with, aware of universal potential. I don't think Stephen Hawking could manifest two bodies at the same time. And I don't think that he has a scientific explanation for that. Other than to say that the people who thought that that happened, they were mistaken. They were mistaken. And he could come up with a variety of psychological reasons why they were out of their minds. And I don't think Stephen Hawking, in his explanation of the spiritual of science, can raise the dead. And yet all of the great masters have done that. And most importantly, he doesn't, his explanations about science, his scientific view of life, don't bring us peace. They don't bring us bliss. They don't bring us, in a very practical way, the central solution to our daily challenges. The science of Kriya Yoga does. The science of Kriya Yoga gives us a practical solution for every life challenge, something that we can work with. Through our inner connection to the divine, we will experience inspirations and opportunities to fulfill every righteous need that we have in life. And most importantly, it will bring us the peace and well-being that is the true measure of a good life, is the ability to perceive and to express through your life the highest qualities of servicefulness, of caring about others, about manifesting an active flow of life energy through your life that is a blessing to others. Not just with information, but with the consciousness, with the communion of a heartfelt knowledge of oneness. The science cannot bring us to bliss. The only way that science brings you to bliss is through chemicals. And that bliss doesn't lead to universal bliss. The number one prescription in America, I don't know if it's still true, but for a long time was Xanax. was an antidepressant. This is the great gift of science is take a pill, and then you'll feel a little bit less bothered by your life challenges. No, Lahiri Mahasaya said, take Kriya practice, take communion with God, and in that you will free yourself from every limitation, be it physical, mental, or spiritual. And there's so many stories of devotees who have been healed spontaneously through meditation. They've been, their lives have come into synchronization because of their inner connection to spirit, the answers to the solutions to all of their challenges. But at the same time, every devotee will have challenges, and even the masters have challenges. When Lahiri Mahasaya's wife nagged him, he had a little bit different response than the average husband. You see, she complained that they needed more money, and so then he disappeared right before her eyes, and said, "What can I do? I'm nothing." And then she went, "Oh, okay," and recognized that his power was not, his life purpose was not to be a wealthy man, to show that the average man on the average income could still know God. Now, that doesn't mean that all devotees don't have money. In a previous incarnation, he was King Janaka. And that was why Babaji, when he reinitiated him into Kriya, manifested a palace for him. And these miraculous capabilities, they're fascinating to us. But I guarantee you, the greatest, most miraculous thing in our lives will be that through the practice of Kriya, we will feel God's presence deeper and deeper. And through that communion, we will find our greatest happiness and our greatest ability to help others in life. And that this has come about through this incredible historic event, this planet-changing event, that Lahiri Mahasaya was born into this world and reintroduced and to the world in general the practice of Kriya Yoga and the lifestyle that supports that practice, so that we can learn to meditate all the time. Because when you meditate in the meditation room, you're learning how to connect. But once you learn to connect, you can be connected all the time. And you can find that connection in every life experience. You begin to realize that the person that's talking to you, that's yelling at you, that you think is your enemy, that's God. And God is having fun. God is interacting with you. God is giving you an opportunity to express the divine. And it's your challenge to figure out how can I express the divine in this moment, which I'm thinking, you know, isn't my first preference for comfort. But through the practice of Kriya, when we learn to attune ourselves to Spirit, we will sometimes spontaneously, sometimes the thought will come to us, but in any case, we will somehow manifest our discipleship in that moment in the best way that we can. And as we deepen that inner connection, our ability to manifest that God presence will become higher and higher. And this is the happiest way to live in life, is to be connected to Spirit and then allow Spirit to flow through your life in the way that it most naturally wants to go. This is the teaching of Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He says that the path of the devotee who embraces God's creation but does not forget God, takes God into daily life, this is the higher path. It's a challenging path. It's not simple. Well, it's not easy, but it is simple. Kriya. And it's so effective that it really comes down to, in most cases, it simply comes down to investing the time. A little bit of investment. So every month, people, you have a savings program at the bank. You put in a few rupees, yes? And you hope that by the time you're elderly, you'll have a nice savings, retirement fund. This is what Lahiri Mahasaya says: invest in your retirement fund of Spirit. Because he doesn't go on to say that if you do not invest in God, yes, you'll get to go on vacation, but then you'll run out of vacation funds and you'll have to come back to work until you graduate in God. And the greatest news is that Lahiri Mahasaya has given us the tool, given us the key, given us the opportunity, made it available to us through his request to Babaji, when Babaji said, give this technique only to those who have proven to the highest standard that they're worthy. Lahiri Mahasaya said, well, wait a minute. Can't we give this to everybody? Why should we hold this back? And Babaji said, God has spoken through you. Let every sincere seeker receive the blessing of the Kriya technique and the Kriya lifestyle. And all of us are here in this moment because of this promise. And everyone who's practiced the technique for any amount of time and sincerely given it their efforts knows the potential benefits. And I say potential benefits because the benefits are so large that you can't expect to perfect it in a day, a week, a month. But you can, through Yoganandaji's word is that you can in this lifetime experience communion with God. Even graduation, but definitely communion. But we have to invest our energy, our time, our hearts. And through that, everything is improved. So for the blessing of his manifestation of God's presence in this world, and the very direct blessing that we've received from that incarnation, and then we offer our sincere thanks, our open hearts, and appreciation for the life and the blessings of Sri Lahiri Mahasaya. Namaste.